building a PC is more popular than ever. So I thought I'd show you why I would always build my own, the components I use, and why I chose them. Hello and welcome to A Tribe Called Ben Needs a Haircut and More Sleep. At the heart of the A Tribe Called Cars operation, besides biscuits, puns and Earl Grey tea, is my beloved computer. Without it, I'd be etching charcoal onto pebbles and throwing them into the sea, or herding carrier pigeons, or something. From Lego and Meccano as a kid, to furniture, speaker stands, and just about everything. As a fully grown man-child, I've always loved building things. And being a gamer since the days of cartridges, yes, I'm that old, computers were an inevitability. The simple fact is that building a PC can be a great experience. It helps with patience, improves your technical knowledge, generates satisfaction, can work out better value, and lets you get exactly what you want. I've built 3 PCs over the last decade, and they all still work, so reliability is another plus. Although you can really see how much faster computers have become, my original computer is painfully slow. It's easy to get bogged down by percentages and fancy marketing, and before you know it, you're bankrupt and eating out of a bin. The reality is that what matters most is real-world performance, and anything beyond that, well, it gets a bit pointless. Especially as the next shiny new fun thing is never far away. Try to keep that in mind when browsing Amazon, overclockers, Scan, and all the other various computer component retailers. Your wallet will thank you. But also, if possible, avoid cutting corners and try to think at least a few years ahead. Now, I will say that anyone can build a PC. Yes, even you. These days, components are resilient enough that you would really have to try to break them. In fact, the biggest challenge usually starts when you first switch on your freshly built PC. What components you choose depends on your requirements and your budget, or your parents' budget. For me, I need to edit videos as painlessly as possible, and also a lot of the games I get to preview early are on PC, and obviously I want them to look their best. That means gaming at 4K and editing bulky 4K files. My old PC and its waste paper bin Silverstone FT03 case was simply not up to the task. That's why I had to build a new one in 2018. Well, that and the fact that I couldn't resist, and I'm a total nerd. So here we are with a gaming and video editing PC that I would describe as healthily fast. More than ample, certainly, for most people, yet only just powerful enough for the 4K side of things, which does put me in a slightly awkward position. This is why I may potentially get a new CPU to go along with the lovely Asus 3080 that I'm getting, hopefully, in the near future. Cheers, Corona. Anyway, feel free to like and subscribe. Let's take a peek inside my PC. The Central Processing Unit, or CPU for short, is important because it does all the necessary calculations for a computer to be computery. It's also the thing that you can break more easily than other components, so handle with care, avoid bending the pins, apply decent thermal paste, and fit a good cooler. Little grooves on the side help you put the CPU in its socket the correct way up. I want an AMD 5900X as it is ridiculously fast, and it'll be years before I have to upgrade again, unless something crazy happens in the world of computing. For now though, I'm sticking with my trusty 8-core AMD Ryzen 7 1700. I didn't bother with the overclocked X version, as to be honest, you can overclock the 1700 massively, although it does largely depend on what's known as the silicon lottery. Basically, some chips can cope with the strain better than others, and I don't mean the potato ones. My PC is clocked at 3.8 GHz because at this speed it's plenty fast, and also you avoid the higher temperatures and sometimes a slightly more volatile experience, shall we say. So as long as the overclock settings are good, your components and cables are all fitted properly, you should be able to get this kind of performance 24/7. Depending on the budget, Intel can be better for gaming, but AMD Ryzen's processors are typically very good for multi-purpose type stuff, normally because you get more cores for your money. Whichever CPU vendor you choose will of course have a bearing on the components you choose, especially the motherboard. I have Adobe Premiere Pro, Photoshop, Mozilla Firefox, Chrome, Word, and various other bits of software, Audacity, which is recording the audio now. All of that runs at the same time if I need it to, and it does so in a snappy way. Unless you plan to do some very intensive 3D rendering, or perhaps a lot of video editing of the 4K plus resolution variety, or 4K gaming, or crazy high frame rates, this CPU and the first generation in general are actually surprisingly capable. When it comes to the main hard drive that Windows 10 lives on in my case, but it could be Linux or something else in yours, my PC uses a Samsung Evo 960 M2 SSD. SSDs, or solid state drive for short, are basically much faster at loading data than their disk-based equivalents. The M2 variant, which plugs into a special slot on the motherboard, is even faster. I actually have a heatsink on mine to keep it cool, again for aiding longevity and stability. 512GB or 1TB of storage is a good amount, as you'll want enough to fit the operating system and at least some games and the software you use the most. 256GB or 128 can work though if you're careful, especially as Windows 10 is around 30GB in size these days. The problem is that the likes of Call of Duty are normally tens of gigabytes, sometimes hundreds. You can then use various internal and external hard drives for the rest of your storage needs. These are cheaper, and that's a good thing because when I record at 4K, I can rinse 1TB in a few hours. I typically use Western Digital disk drives, 7200 RPM, 1 to 2 TB or thereabouts. Nothing fancy. I've also used Seagate for internal and external storage and never had a problem either, touch wood. Somehow since building this PC I've ended up with 9 storage drives, which is ridiculous. I think that's about 20 TB plus of storage or something like that. But then I'd rather one fails and I lose some stuff or maybe recover it all, but you never quite know. Or you lose one big drive and potentially everything is gone, and then you spend weeks crying. Next up is the Random Access Memory, or RAM for short, not the thing with the... yeah. Many fancy systems use 16 or 32 gigabytes. However, I believe you can go up to 128 gigabytes, maybe even 256. However, 16 gigabytes of quality fast memory works well. Mine is clocked at 3200 megahertz, as that is the maximum my motherboard can support. Newer motherboards can support memory speeds up to 4.6 gigahertz, maybe a little bit more, obviously depends on when you're watching this. Although 4 gigahertz is currently where the benefit tops out. It's worth getting memory with a moderate speed and lower timings, and then overclock later. Usually it's just an easy option in the BIOS menu, and away you go. Amazingly, my ASRock Taichi X370 motherboard can support Zen 1, Zen 2, and now Zen 3 processors thanks to the 6.61 BIOS update. The update, though from ASRock itself, is unofficial. Besides the features and value, the X370 Taichi looks nice in white, not too garish like some of the other more gaming focused motherboards. My older system was Micro ATX, which is basically a smaller form factor. However, this time I wanted to have a bit more airflow and also the space for a larger graphics card. It's a good idea to check a motherboard's supported memory list to see what memory works at what maximum speed and how many slots you can have running at the same time. It might be you can have 32 gigabytes or 64 or even 128, but the overall speed could be lower in terms of megahertz. Usually, most RAM kits play nice, particularly as motherboards are updated over time. However, some will be better supported than others. G.Skill's Flare X DDR4 stuff has been really great for me. Ideally, RAM of the Samsung B-Die variety is the best for overclocking, but unless you really want to maximize speed, I would recommend you just worry more about value for money. Speaking of the motherboard, I bought the ASRock X370 Taichi because at the time it was good value for money and basically had all the features I needed, the right number of PCI slots, SATA 6 connections, blah blah blah. I also like the BIOS menu and features, and also I've had an ASRock before and it was faultless, so that's why I went with it. To be honest, all manufacturers, Asus, Gigabyte, MSI, have their respective pros and cons, so if you want something particular, it's worth having a bit of a research. Use Google, Custom PC, and the various other websites that review components. The case you put everything in is often overlooked. You should take some time to research, as it's nice to have features such as multiple hard drives and SSD bays, decent cable routing potential unless you want it to be RGB, multiple vents for fans and radiators, and easy to access USB and other connections. Mine is the Anades AI Crystal XL Lite V3, I think. It's basically a cheaper alternative to something from Corsair or NZXT, and it's mostly easy to work with. It lets you hide cables pretty well, and best of all, it has smoked glass that allows you to hide certain imperfections such as dust, or if you do a terrible job of cable routing, yet it still lets the lovely RGB lighting do its thing. The black tempered glass actually acts a little bit like a mirror when you have all the components switched off, so if you want, the case can sort of blend in to your environment. I think it looks the part, but to be honest, I do miss the smaller size of the micro ATX format. With 340mm front fans, 120 or 140mm rear fan, closed loop CPU cooling connected to a radiator with two more 120mm fans, I see temperatures around 24 degrees when the computer is idling, rising to around 50 degrees when at full load and or in the summer. Yes, Britain does have a summer. Colder is better as heat wears out components, so do not skimp in this area. Although a lot of AMD CPUs, including the new 5600X, comes with a free CPU cooler, well, kind of free, that actually works very, very well. So in some ways, you don't always need to at least buy that bit. The Anades AI also has a little switch on the front for reducing the fan speed and therefore the amount of noise the computer makes. This is useful for me when I'm recording audio for YouTube videos. As for the pretty stuff, I went with Corsair double L RGB fans, as I wanted to give the RGB bling thing a go, why not? I also have the Corsair fan hub connecty thing that allows me to put all the fans together in one place and control it using the IQ software. And there are also 3 or 4 RGB strips also connected to the same device. Said fans are not cheap, but they are actually quite good in terms of airflow. Another pro tip is to get a decent PSU or power supply unit. This is basically the thing that plugs in the computer to your electricity supply. I've used Corsair in all of my computers, never had an issue. They are pretty good value for money, but there are obviously lots of competitors that are as good, maybe better these days. I haven't checked for a while. In fact, over a decade, the only thing I've had fail on me is the CMOS battery, but after a decade, that's actually par for the course. This particular PSU is the RM850i, 850 being the number of watts it produces. And to be honest, this gives you plenty of headroom for graphics card, decent CPU, and various other bits and bobs. Typically, you pay extra money for greater levels of power and or superior efficiency. As with cooling, it's better to overdo it so that you have a computer that is working quite happily within the realms of its ability, as opposed to screaming under the sheer strain. A lower output may also inhibit future upgrades, such as a bigger graphics card, or perhaps 2 of them. Meanwhile, my CPU cooler is the Cooler Master Liquid ML240L RGB closed loop. I've used fan coolers in the past, and they look great. They're typically cheaper. But my last computer and this one uses the water cooling alternative, as it's effective and it takes up less space. Sometimes RAM can be blocked by those big bulky metal constructions. Touch wood, again, I've never had a leak, and I didn't with the older H60 that I had in the computer before this one. Not only does the CPU cooler help with longevity, it can also give you more headroom when it comes to overclocking. You can of course get a really fancy open loop system that you build yourself, and then you can fill it with glitter, Coca-Cola, fish, whatever takes your fancy. But the price, the expertise required, and of course the risk when first assembling it, and actually potentially during, goes up. Plus, unless you're chasing crazy benchmark scores or you really must have the absolute best performance, it's a little bit pointless. The gains are smaller and smaller as you get faster and faster, basically because the optimization of games and software is actually largely dependent on how much of a benefit you will see. As for the graphics card, my Nvidia GTX 1080 Ti is a beast, but not quite capable of full-on 4K gaming at 60 frames per second, unless the game isn't hugely graphically intensive. However, at 1080p or 1440p, or if you're happy dropping the visual settings just a little bit, it is a great card. For just 1080p gaming, you might be better off with a 3060 or a 1050, 1060, 1070, something like that, or an equivalent from AMD, of course. The 1080 Ti variant I have is the Founders Edition, and boy, does it run hot. Like 80 degrees hot in some instances, which is said to be acceptable but makes me very, very anxious. So I bought the Arctic Accelero Extreme 4 GPU cooler, which is basically just some metal and some fans, and it keeps it cooler, hence the name. Now, it's not the easiest thing to fit, as you really need to know where the thermal pads go, and this varies between different graphics cards. Plus, you'll need some tiny tools to take off the old inferior cooler. It's also massive, hence why it sits in the lower PCIe slot, which is slower, yes, I know that. Another reason to upgrade my motherboard. Make the effort, however, and you will get operating temperatures from as little as 25 degrees Celsius and highs in the 50s. Wow, I sound like a weatherman. Even in that cozier position in my case at the bottom. That's about 20 to 30 degrees cooler than the stock solution, which is not bad at all for £45. Another overlooked element of a PC build is the monitor. I have two because productivity. One is a curved Samsung that's capable of 120 kHz gaming or 120 frames per second. And there's also a 4K BenQ, which can do HDR, and that basically makes the Samsung look horribly outdated. The BenQ IPS monitor is great because it's very color accurate. I also find 27 inches is the best balance of size, legibility, detail, but also it doesn't take up too much space on your desk, particularly if you wall mount them like I have. This 4K BenQ is not cheap, however. For editing 4K, I want to see what my video looks like. I can also color grade and know what I see is actually as it should be. I also use it for movies and general work, and for gaming, the image looks great and there's not too much input lag. The only alternative at this price point was one from LG, I forget the name, however it just didn't tick quite as many boxes. Honestly, the BenQ PD2700U, I think that's the name, is a fantastic monitor. The Samsung, meanwhile, may have a different definition of what white looks like, yet the 120Hz mode and 1080p quality does make some games look really, really good. It's harder to go from 60 frames per second to 30, admittedly, but it also takes some adjustment going from 120 down to 60. The curved design is also great for viewing. In light of my Xbox Series X and forthcoming 3080, hopefully, a 4K 120 frames per second monitor would be the dream. But the number of games that can do both is currently small, and capable monitors and TVs are painfully expensive right now. So, pretty light, worth it? Not really if you only care about performance and value. Would I buy RGB stuff again though in future? Hell yes. It's nice to jazz up your space and show your creation. I actually do find myself looking at it in a rather longing way. Yes, I am very sad. If you want to go ultra bling, and I mean £40 plus per cable type bling, then you can get RGB cables that light up and look cool and are more interesting than the black or grey or white variants that most people use. Also, you can get RAM with RGB on top, which I don't have, and again, this just adds a little bit more visual interest to your computer. And this is something I probably will get in the future. I usually go with one of two color schemes, one being the closest to the sort of gradient in the ATribeCalledCars logo, or I go pink, because why not? Despite having so many color options available, only some of them actually show up or look particularly different when it comes to the Corsair model, and not all colors offer the same brightness. So when you have smoked glass, like on this case, you may end up going with colors that are just simply brighter. But at least I can match the motherboard and the CPU cooler's more limited hue options. One upgrade I would potentially like is the iBuyPower, such a stupid name, Snowblind S case. Now this case has a see-through LCD display instead of your normal glass. That means you can overlay different things such as the temperature of what your computer's doing, or you can have a logo or just a pattern, that kind of stuff. This upgrade is absolutely unnecessary, and I wish the rest of the case design was a little bit simpler. I'd also probably buy an RGB fan for the rear of the case, but to be honest, that's not really essential. As a big music nerd, I ended up buying a rather special sound card that basically allows me to hook up my computer directly to a hi-fi amplifier. Sadly, it won't fit inside this PC because there just isn't the correct PCI slot for it. I should have got the STX version, but anyway, never mind. But the Asus Essence Zonar ST is a cool bit of kit, and it looks amazing. Bit of gold, got some cool animal on it. Yeah, why not? I also need to record gameplay at 4K, and this is where my rather swanky AVerMedia Live Gamer 4K capture card comes into play. It's not cheap, but it is substantially cheaper than its external sibling that you don't have to worry about fitting. I'm making a video about this another time. And to be honest, so far it has worked brilliantly recording the Xbox Series X. Meanwhile, my mouse is a TechNet thing that works well, although I've never actually mapped the buttons on the side. I also have a curved Microsoft keyboard that is not what I wanted. However, my old Microsoft one that I loved died, and unfortunately they no longer made it anymore. So when I got a free replacement, I had to pick something else. The main thing is that it's got the spongy wrist thing, which I would recommend to anyone. Same for my mouse mat. I'm not sure I always like the curved nature of my keyboard, but it does allow me to type pretty fast and for long periods of time, which is pretty much all I can ask for. As I write most of my video scripts, this is the dream. Plus it has audio controls, which is a big plus in my humble opinion. By no means is this a slow PC, despite the fact that it's a generation or 2 or even 3 behind in places. But it is really on the limit of acceptability when it comes to rendering and generally editing 4K files and 4K gaming, which is partly why I will be upgrading soon. Hint, hint, AMD. TLDL, a few key upgrades in your PC can net you some serious performance gains, especially if the components you're buying are newer than mine, particularly the graphics card, CPU, RAM, and an SSD if you don't have one already. Whatever you do, I would highly recommend that you give building a PC from scratch a go, or just modify a component or two if you feel like dipping your toe into the water. It's really not that scary. I mean, if I can do it, then so can you. And that's it for this video. Let me know if you have any PC related questions in the comments below. I shall try to answer them, or someone with a larger brain than me will do that job instead. Be sure to like and subscribe because I'll be making more videos like this. I shall see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.